All right, so we've talked about Ainsley Almanor, who I think is just quite literally a perfect fit for what Kentucky was looking for at the power forward spot. They literally said, hey, we want somebody that can come in and kind of be an outside shooter at that backup four spot. They got that with a guy that really knew how to score the rock at a lower level school, but at the same time, you look at Antonio Reeves at Illinois State. I don't really think that we, as college basketball fans, can continue to knock these mid-major schools. I've already seen some people online saying how this is not a good pickup and how this is kind of a mid pickup, and that the fact that Kentucky is pulling from some of these lower level schools is actually kind of embarrassing. And I think that just frankly is not the correct line of thinking, especially whenever you look at how college basketball has kind of moved over the last several years, where some of these mid-major players have started to rise to these Power Six schools, I should say, and they've been able to find not just a little success, but a lot of success. In fact, most of the players from the SEC a season ago came from some mid-major, or as some people like to say, no-name school, like Fairleigh Dickinson or Illinois State with Antonio Reeves. I think we need to stop knocking these schools. If you look at a kid and he's coming in, he's got good stats, I think that can definitely translate, especially considering the staff that you may have surrounding that kid as far as the development of his talents go. I think Kentucky's going to be okay with guys like Ainsley Almanor. Unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to be okay with guys like Jackson Robinson, who also played power forward and the wing spot for BYU just a season ago. 6-man, coming off of BYU's bench, actually led the team in scoring, doing so shooting just a little bit over 35.4% from three. 6'7", very athletic, very bouncy, fun to watch, good score. Previously played at Arkansas and Texas A&M. With the commitment of Almanor, it becomes increasingly difficult to see a spot for Robinson on this team. And I know Kentucky could probably move some things around to find him a spot, but this is 11 players in this rotation now, and most of them are playing at the position that Robinson would be most comfortable. I don't think you can slide Jackson Robinson up to the 2 in this rotation. I don't think that makes sense. I also don't think it makes perfect sense to slide guys like Kobe Brea or Otega Owe up to the 2 and just leave them there, because both of them are more wing-type players, especially Brea, who plays more off-ball and I think would be best served at that small forward or even power forward position given the lineup. When you look up and down this roster, you have technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players that could play at small forward or power forward. Those players, and just hear me out, because a couple of these will not play at that position: Colin Chandler, Kobe Brea, Otega Owe, Trent Noah, Andrew Carr, and Ainsley Almanor. Those 6 guys will play at some point this season at the 3 or the 4. Chandler, because of his height, I think that he can definitely play small forward, but I think that he's going to play shooting guard in almost any rotation that he gets into. I think that he'll be okay at either spot. I think that Kentucky could go with a smaller lineup and throw him at the 3 for fun. Brea, I think almost certainly will play the 3. Owe, I think will split time between the 2 and the 3, but mostly play the 3. Trent Noah, I think, is a 3. Andrew Carr is just a pure 4. And then Ainsley Almanor, I think, is a pure 4 as well. Just because of the fact that he's only played 4 and 5 during his time in college, and I would be shocked if Kentucky wanted to move him to the 3 with Brea, Owe, and Noah already kind of sitting there as that's kind of their spot. I don't see Kentucky moving Brea up to shooting guard. I really, really don't see that happening. If it does happen, you know what? I think that's good, because it opens up some room for some of these other players who are really good shooters and really good players in their own right to kind of develop at some of these other spots, the 3, the 4. But all of that being said, I at this point, I doubt Jackson Robinson's coming to Kentucky. I mean, if you want to make a case for Jackson Robinson potentially still coming to UK, you could slide Brea up to the 2. You could slide Owe up to the 2 at different points. You could just elect not to play Trent Noah and have him as a depth piece. And then you could play, at some point, you could play Robinson at the 3, or you could play him at the 4 and let Almanor play at the 3. I don't think Almanor or Robinson are particularly like elite ball handlers, I should say. And you don't necessarily have to have them at those positions, but to have both of those guys out there in a rotation just would not feel, I don't know, something about it feels clunky to me. Just watching those two. Robinson right now, there are some rumors that I don't think I should believe, but are out there about him possibly coming back to college. And if he does, Kansas being the team that he would take a look at potentially. I'm not sure. I know that Kentucky has been trying hard after him. They picked up a player while they were waiting on his announcement. And I'll just say this. What happened last offseason with Oscar Tshiebwe should never happen again. I think that this staff understands that and understands the fact that just in general, you can't wait on kids to make these decisions whenever you have the opportunity to go get players that are either similar in terms of their production or better than the players' production that you were previously pursuing. Kentucky has not sat on their hands and waited for guys like Grado Sabor or Jackson Robinson to make a decision. They've continued to look at their prospects and they've continued to recruit. I think that that's smart. I think that's the right decision. And I'm not sitting here telling you that I don't want Jackson Robinson on this team. I would have loved to have Jackson Robinson on this team. I still would like to have him on this team. It's just realistically, it's becoming less and less of a likely chance that he ends up coming to play in Lexington because of just how little room there is. And if Kentucky gets Chaz Lanier in the next few days, I think that's wraps. I think that is your rotation. That's your 12-man rotation. You're not bringing in Jackson Robinson as your 13th guy. That's just unrealistic at that point. He would be better off going somewhere else where he would get more playing time and a similar NIL package. I think that the way Kentucky has managed their roster building over the past month, which is just crazy to think that it took Kentucky 1 month to build a roster when it took John Calipari half a year, it felt like, last season to even cobble together some players at the last minute, and some of them didn't even get on campus, nor were they healthy to begin the season. It's very refreshing. It's very refreshing to see somebody actually go out and do their job competently. So that's my take on it. I think that guys like Jackson Robinson would be great to have, but I don't necessarily think Kentucky is in good standing to land them anymore, which is just disappointing, but it is what it is. So you can leave your thoughts on that in the YouTube comments below. You can hit me on the socials at LockedOnUK about Robinson and this rotation. Let's talk for a second about this rotation a little bit more, just some interesting thoughts about Kentucky and their outside shot this upcoming season. Before I do that, just want to remind you guys, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate it. If you are listening on podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Let me know what you think about the show. Leave any kind of words you want, whether it be a paragraph, whether it be a few words, whether it be no words. So just leave a review. Let me know what you think about the show. I'd greatly appreciate it. You can follow both of the shows on Twitter at LockedOnUK, or both the show and myself, I should say, on Twitter at LockedOnUK and at _. Appreciate if you threw a follow there. And if you have any questions for the show, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below, or again, hit me on Twitter, and I'll do my best to respond here. All right, wrapping up the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky. So we've talked about Robinson, we've talked about Almanor. Let's talk for a little bit about this rotation and this roster. So from top to bottom, Kentucky basketball's scholarship players look like this. From guard to center: Lamont Butler, Kerr Kriisa, Travis Perry, Colin Chandler, Kobe Brea, Otega Owe, Trent Noah, Andrew Carr, Ainsley Almanor, Amari Williams, and Brandon Garrison. Butler and Kriisa, I think, will be your two at the point guard spot. I think right now, Kentucky is looking for a starting two guard. I think that will end up being Chaz Lanier, more than likely. But I think Perry could split time between point guard and shooting guard. Chandler, I think, will be a 2 or a 3, most likely more of a 2. Kobe Brea, I think, could be somewhere between 2 and the 4. I'm not sure where Kentucky's going to play him. I think if I had to guess, it's going to be the 3. Otega Owe, I think, is a 2 or a 3. Trent Noah, I think, is a 3. Andrew Carr is a 4. Ainsley Almanor is a 4. Amari Williams is a 5. And Brandon Garrison, who I think is just, quite frankly, slept on. He is also, I think, a 5. I'm very excited about this front court, man. Carr, Almanor, Williams, and Garrison. The fact that you got a second shooter to make up for the fact that at your 5, you have 2 guys that will not be taking threes at all, very good. I think that's excellent. I think Kentucky did themselves a service here by going out and getting somebody that kind of helps this front court rotation, where you don't just have one shooter in your front court. You have multiple guys that can go out there and knock down some shots. And you have guys like Kobe Brea that if you want to run a smaller lineup, you could throw down at the 4 for fun. Again, I don't know how Kentucky's going to do their rotations. All I know is that Kentucky will probably shoot a ton of threes this upcoming season. Again, take you back to BYU, the number 14 offense in the nation, according to Kim Palm a season ago. They relied on the outside shot heavily. They took a ton of three-point attempts per game, and then when you look at their point distribution, which was just the percentage of points that they got from 3, from 2, and from the foul line, they got 41% of their points from 2, which was second nationally. They had a ton of guys that were throwing up shots. Statistically, they were not the most efficient team from beyond the arc at 34.8%, but I think this year's team may be a little bit better than that and may take just a tick less when it comes to actually three-pointers attempted per game. I think they'll take less three-point shots per game, and I think they'll be a little more efficient from beyond the arc. That's just my guess. And the reason that I think that is because of this interesting tweet that I believe Kyle Tucker put out earlier today, talking about the rotation and about how Kentucky is actually a pretty dang good three-point shooting team. Transfers from 3 from a season ago, according to Kyle Tucker of The Athletic. Kobe Brea of Dayton was 100 of 201. He shot 49.8%. Kerr Carissa of West Virginia shot 61 of 144. That's 42.4%. So 2 guys right there that are already shooting over 40%. One of them shooting almost 50% from beyond the arc. Ainsley Almanor, 93 of 236. Again, like I mentioned, that was 39.4%. Very, very good numbers so far. Otega Owe, 37.7%, 20 of 53. Not a massive three-point shooter, but also was not taking a ton of shots for Oklahoma a season ago. Andrew Carr, 36 of 97, 37.1%. There's no shortage of shooting for Pope, and that is also not including, by the way, really good three-point shooters in Trent Noah, Travis Perry, and Colin Chandler. 3 guys that are going to come off the bench and absolutely light it up. And then the second tweet from Tucker here. In total, Kentucky's 8 transfers made a combined 343 of 843 pointers last season. That is 40.8%. Plus incoming freshman Trent Noah, who shot 43% as a high school senior, Travis Perry, who shot 42% as a high school senior, and Colin Chandler, who made 135 threes in high school. All 3 of those guys, quality shooters. 40.8%, by the way, if you want to go check Kentucky's page again, would have been good for second in the country because the Wildcats a season ago shot 40.9% from beyond the arc per game. That's very, very, very good. So I think that Kentucky, again, will probably take less three-point shots than they did a season ago. I think that they will be more efficient in doing so. And then you start to wonder about the other aspects of this team. Will Kentucky be good at rebounding? Will they be able to go out there and grab boards consistently? And that's something that we do have to worry about, I think, a little bit when talking about this rotation. I think Carr, Williams, and Garrison will be good rebounders. I think guys like Almanor will be good rebounders. He averaged over 5 a game as well. You look at guys like Otega Owe, who is very physical in grabbing boards. I think Brea will also be able to grab some boards as well because of his height. But on the whole, I'm actually starting to wonder if that could be a potential issue for the Wildcats, even though statistically we're not seeing any reason to worry about that. And if you look at BYU just a season ago, I mean, they were top 65 in offensive rebound percentage on both sides of the ball, 21st nationally actually on the defensive side of the ball. So they were not giving up a ton of second chance points, unlike the Wildcats from a season ago, who not only didn't want to grab rebounds, but also just physically didn't have the weight and physicality to actually go out and do so consistently. So I think Kentucky, that could be an area where we start to worry a little bit. I think that defense is also probably going to be the weaker of these two units. That's not a revelation. That's a pretty fair guess if I had to say. Does that mean it's going to be a bad defense? No, I don't think it's going to be a bad defense, especially with guys like Butler, Owe, Williams, Garrison, I think is going to be good as well. I think you've got guys up and down this roster that can play defense. I just don't think it's going to be nearly as strong as what you could be seeing on the offensive side of the ball. But all this to say, Kentucky's going to take threes. That's going to be their identity again this season, and that's going to probably be their identity consistently underneath Mark Pope. You're going to see up-tempo. You're going to see teams that rely on the outside shot a decent amount. You're going to see teams that are fun. And I think Kentucky fans will definitely appreciate that as long as the wins also come alongside it. So let me know what you think about Kentucky basketball and their rotation in the comments below. Let me know if you are excited about the recent commitment of Ainsley Almanor, and where do you think Kentucky's going to go with Robinson and Chaz Lanier? You can leave all of that in the comments below.